So in this video on Advanced Find for Microsoft Dynamics for Sales, we're going to cover the bit that comes after running your query in terms of making sure you're bringing back the information onto the screen that you need, putting it into a format that works for you, particularly if you're going to save that query or that view for future use or indeed share it with colleagues. So this is one of a series we're doing on Advanced Find. You can see links to others in the series below, or if you've got any content suggestions or you need any help with Microsoft Dynamics, see the links below. Anyway, in this video what we're going to do is start off with a really basic Advanced Find. So I'm just going to go to the Advanced Find button on the top bar, pick the table or the record type that I want to work with, which is contacts. I'm going to click continue, and I go into the query building view. Now, just as a reminder, that will pick up by default your default view on that record type. Mine is all contacts, and all contacts doesn't have any filters. Yours might already have filters. If it does and they're not the ones you want, you can just get rid of them by clicking delete all filters. It won't delete them permanently, but will allow you to build your query from a blank canvas. So I'm just going to say, well, we'll just have a group that is status, status equals active. Help if I can spell status, right, equals active. So we don't want deactivated records because they've gone away or we've merged them as a duplicate. And that's as simple as a query as we're going to make it. Let's apply that. When I run that query, it's picking up the columns that I have as standard in my default view, which may or may not be what I want to see. So I'm going to extend that out. So in order to do that, I just click on the edit columns button here. And then when I do that, I can see the 4 columns that are already displaying. If I want to add to those, I go to the add columns button. And what I'm going to do is from that list, that will list me all the fields on that record, both standard and any custom ones that have been added through the setup of the system. I can filter that down, by the way. I can see all or standard or custom fields, so I can break that down a bit. But I'm just going to choose address 1 city. I've clicked that and that's appeared on my palette. Now I'm going to add to that job title. It's a little bit down the list, so I'm not going to scroll down there. Job title, and I'm going to add preferred method of contact. I'm going to close that now. So I've added those 3 fields to it. Now let's say this is a business-to-business context. So in this case, a contact will work for a client, and maybe I actually want to bring some information from that related organization record. Let's show how we can do that. So I can go back to add columns. Now previously I just picked those up by default from the contact record. I can't do that this time because they're held elsewhere. So I go to the related tab here, and that tells me all the related parent records for this particular contact. Now bear in mind, I can only display data in my view from parent records. I can't do it from child records. Now the parent record I want is that company name account. There's a little side arrow there. If I click that, then again that displays the fields. So what I'm going to choose is, if I'm going to scroll down and spot annual revenue, I'm going to choose annual revenue. And then I'm also going to select number of employees, let's say. I'll just type that into the search bar there. Close that. So I've now increased the number of fields I've got in the view. What you can see here, if I just rest my mouse on any of these tiles, you can see a little 3 dots appear at the end here. If I just click on that, I've got the option to remove that. So if I've added that field by mistake and I want to get rid of it, I can remove it. Or perhaps one of the original fields that started off with, I might want to remove those. That gives me the option to do it. I also get the option to move things around which I'm not going to use because actually I've got the ability to drag and drop things if I wish to. So I can move things around using drag and drop. I'm going to apply that now, and that brings back my query with the new columns I've added. So I can do some further work on columns now. If you see that on each of the header records there's a little down arrow. If I click that down arrow, you can see I've got some options there. So if I wanted to move things around further, I've got the option to move left, move right. I could go back to that edit columns view there and do it within that. Or actually the simplest way of doing it, if I wish to, is just drag that record across and just move it to a new spot. So that gives me the options for getting the columns in the order on the screen that I want them to. Next thing I'm going to touch on is sizing the columns. So if I look at company name here, it's a little bit truncated, so I want to expand that out. So the way I can do that is go to, again, header record, down arrow, click column width and just expand that out so it's the width I want it. But the simpler way of doing it is actually to drag the columns across till you get to the width that you want. So I can narrow these up, extend them as needed. So that's how I can start to set the widths so they work for me. The other thing I might want to do is add a sort to this. So again, I'm going to click on annual revenue column header, click the down arrow, and in this case I've got the option to sort it smaller to larger, larger to smaller, and again to sort by larger to smaller. So I've now sorted that. I've also got the option on a number field only of putting in totals. So if I wanted to add a sum field, I could do that. And the other thing, let me just remove that. And the other thing I can potentially do is group things. So if I wanted to group by, say, city, I've got the option to group by, and now it will group by the city. So I can just see what's in each city. I can just see that there. I'll go back to that and I'm going to ungroup that. And then at this stage, if I'm happy with my view, I can then save it. So to save it, I go to the list of views. I then go to save as a new view. It's asking me to give it a name, and I'm going to call it test 2. I'm going to save that. Let's refresh that. If I go then to, I can see test 2. And this is, in the interest of transparency, I say at this point, this is a fairly new set of features for Microsoft. And there does seem to be a slightly, let's call it unintended feature that it has reset my width that I set earlier. To sort that out as a workaround, what I can do is just drag and drop it, and if I then go back, save to current view, it will save them for me now. So those widths will be held. I suspect it's a unintended feature that may not be there by the time you come to create your view. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful in terms of being able to bring back the data that you want and put it into a format that you need when you run your advanced find queries. If you want to see other videos in this series, please see below for the links, or if you want to suggest any future content, or indeed you want any help with Microsoft Dynamics, please see the links below. Thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully see you again soon.